deal of pain.
His mother finally walked out of the marital home on the eve of his 14th birthday, leaving her son an emotional mess. Almost overnight, Vincent, always a bit of a handful, went out of control, truanting from school and in trouble with the police. Former Wimbledon physio Derek French lived in Bedmond and remembers Jones, the wayward adolescent.
First time I saw him, I think he was drunk in the social club when he was about 14. I don't think, not badly drunk, but drunk enough for a kid of his age. But he was, a Jack the lad, even in them days he lived his life as if his pants were on fire, and he was a bit of a leery boy at that stage. But there was quite a few on that estate, so he actually fitted in quite well.
He was now at war with his dad, and finally, after one spectacular bust-up, he left home. Father and son would not speak for 3 years.
He went walkabouts. He put his entire life into a black dustbin liner and just went off to find work. He finished at washing pots and pans in a public school somewhere. And on his first day there, when they took him to his tiny bedroom along a dingy and what he called frightening corridor, he got into his little room and he emptied his black dustbin liner, and on the mantelpiece he put all his little trophies that he'd won his schoolboy football.
Still just 16, Vincent lost contact with both parents as he drifted between hostels and dead-end jobs, until an old mate from Bedmond came to the rescue. It was 1982, the year that Britain went to war over the Falklands, a perfect outlet for Vinnie's pent-up frustrations. They tried to join up, but when his mate was turned down, Vinnie wouldn't go it alone. Instead, he and his mates took their personal war into the pubs and clubs of Watford, with Vinnie loving every minute.
We were always in scrapes because we used to bump into other gangs from other parts that we didn't know, and obviously it was bound to go off.
The gang culture was bonded by their love of football. Vinnie hadn't played since leaving home, but the Bedmond village team now welcomed back its lost soul.
He was absolutely outstanding. We used to just give him the ball and he'd do everything with it. He was a really good player.
He just had all the skill, unbelievable tricks. You couldn't get the ball off him, and he'd run rings around you, literally everyone.
Impressive on the pitch, off it, Vinnie looked like a virtual down and out to the team's new manager.
And he had a pair of jeans on with his knees hanging out and backside hanging out, if you like. A pair of hobnail boots and a dirty shirt on. And I thought, who's this? Bear in mind, he was a 17-year-old kid living with a 35-year-old bloke at the time. It's like a doss house. And it weren't really nice for a kid to live in.
John and Wendy Moore took pity. They offered their sofa for a few days. He was to stay for 5 years.
When he got hold of me and said, what do you think about Vince coming to stay with us? So I said to her, I said, well, it's not to me, love. I said, I get up in the morning, I go out, I come back late. I said, you've got the extra washing. I said, and the kids have got to get her with Vince. I said, it's mainly the rest of you. She said, well, we don't mind. And I said, I'm the last one to know about this, aren't I?
These are the very first pictures of Vinnie Jones in action. He's wearing the number 10 shirt. By now, he was turning out for a number of teams in the area, including the college in Bushy, where he'd got a job as a groundsman. Always a small child, he'd suddenly shot up and could put himself about. What was to Sweden? The frozen north was suddenly welcoming the aspiring part-time player. He'd been fixed up with the 3rd Division side and was met at the airport by Mark McNeil, another Englishman trying his luck there. McNeil became an instant mate. Within hours of touchdown with a temperature at -6, Vinnie had his first training session.
When it was that cold, we was giving tracksuit bottoms to play in because obviously it was cold, but I said to Jonah, you've got a pair of tracksuit bottoms over there with your number on. They're yours. Trying to get him in the groove and get him to know the players, and Jonah said, listen, no way, I'm an Englishman, we don't play with tracksuit bottoms.
And it's snowing, snowing, snowing. It will be more than 1 decimeter snow on the pitch. One player have short trousers, Vinnie Jones. a hard man.
The two Englishmen led the village to their most successful season in 20 years. 2-1 down in the cup against First Division opponents, the 21-year-old began ordering his older and more experienced teammates around.
When we come into the dressing room in half-time, it was under for 2-1. He just go around to every player and just, come on, you bastard.
With Vinnie's words ringing in their ears, Holmesons staged an amazing second-half comeback.
We turned the tie around and we won 5-2. And there were scenes here that I've never seen before in my life. The whole town went crazy. It was unbelievable scenes that day.
Jones had demonstrated a remarkable ability to galvanize a team.
We had free food, free apartment, free cars, and when we would go into town just to buy a newspaper, it took about 2 hours to get into town because people who were stopping us wanted to talk to us.
One summer in Sweden had transformed Jones. He arrived as a bit player and had become a force to be reckoned with. And he'd had a taste of life in the limelight. The change was clear.
When Vinnie come to Holmsund, I think it was a boy, but 6 months later, he was a man.
Wimbledon Football Club were one of the unlikely success stories of the modern game. In 10 years, they had emerged from non-league obscurity to reach the first division of the Football League, making the most of limited resources.
We was a load of players that hadn't done very well and been released by other clubs, and all come from non-league teams, and that was it. Everyone had a point to prove.
With the offside. So you're just going to have to look along the line before you go.
Dave Bassett was the father of a bunch of football orphans whom he'd moulded into a team. He'd promised Jones a trial if he did well in Sweden, and he was true to his word.
Anybody else got any problems?
He played a few reserve games and his enthusiasm rubbed off, and we just felt that he was worth taking a chance.
His first ever First Division match at Nottingham Forest was a disaster, the game largely passing him by in a 3-2 defeat. But his home debut was a storybook affair. Pitched against the mighty Manchester United, he scored the only goal of the game to become an overnight headline grabber. Crucially, he revelled in the unique atmosphere of the club, who thought nothing of training with the army to boost team spirit.
Control your bodies, only control a ball when you can't control your body!
We were built on a team that was going to be together. It had to be together, and everybody was in it together. You know, I used to like them to have the physical confrontation and have a bit of fun, you know, like boys do, really. You know, we'd sometimes have rugby scrums, or, you know, we'd have, you know, some sort of contest where it was, you know, well, it ended up in a fight.
Having found his football family, Vinnie soon became leader of the pack, and he took the laddish, aggressive culture to new extremes.
They were training and Jonah gave me a sign of some description, so I V-signed back. And the next minute there was about 8 of them all jumped on top of me, Vinnie the leader, and broke 4 ribs. And they thought I was joking, but I weren't at the time. It was quite painful. But that's the way it was, you know, you lived and died by the sword in those days, you know, and nobody was exempt from being beaten up, kicked or thrown in the river or hung upside down over boats, which I've been done many a time before.
There was one time when we went to Lilleshall Treatment of Injury Centre, and the guy, we'd been working out really hard, the two of us, for like 2 weeks, and they gave us a night out. But they had us chaperoned by one of the PTIs there. And so he come out and he had a few beers with us in the local pub where everyone used to take. Then come at 11 o'clock, we fancied going out again. But he weren't too happy with it, the guy in charge.
Just around the world. With his aggressive snarl and a harsh new haircut, Vinnie was consciously shaping a new image. It was just as the new manager was starting his mission to bring Jones and Wimbledon to heel.
I inherited a very, very naughty teenager. Not only in Wimbledon Football Club, but perhaps in Vincent Jones. You know, he's not been brought up in the normal footballing apprentice background, and we've got to try and educate him. I tell you what, it took some educating.
Nevertheless, under Gould, Wimbledon marched towards undreamed-of success. With Vinnie at its heart, the team from nowhere fought their way through to the cup final, where they would face mighty Liverpool. For Vinnie, reaching the final was vindication of his whole football ethos.
We loved the build-up. You know, from winning the semi-final, we had 5 weeks of, you know, hysteria type thing. You know, we was building up to the cup final. We were looking forward to it. We had all the media interest. We were the paupers. We were the boys. Again, we were the ones that do something silly. Wimbledon would still do it.
Liverpool's 21st appearance in this famous old stadium in 15 seasons. And of course the first FA Cup final appearance of Wimbledon.
We're talking in terms of how many Liverpool would win by, and I can remember certainly writing a piece saying that it was important that Liverpool didn't just beat them, sneak or 1-0, that they really wiped the floor with this bunch of Philistine upstarts.
Steve McMahon was Liverpool's own hard man, and Vinnie's inevitable target.
The cup final was Vinnie's chance to put himself in the picture. There was a lot in the build-up to the game with, you know, the Vinnie Jones, Steve McMahon. You know, how will the battle go? Who will win it? Will it influence the way the game will go?
Vinnie, what about you? What about the game today?
Yeah, there's plenty of that going on.
It took 10 minutes for Jones to nail his man.
Oh, that was a nasty challenge by Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie ended up with a cut under his eye and a little bruise, but you know, we're saying that first challenge give us the edge in the game. And you know, it wasn't that Macca wasn't in the game, but Vinnie felt that he'd drawn first blood, although he'd actually had, you know, blood drawn on him first.
The Dons were on an incredible high. With nothing to hold him back, Vinnie wanted to grab the moment for all it was worth. Gould saw the warning signs.
I was well aware that Vincent could be a problem, because this is a dream come true for him, you know, like 18 months ago being on a building site, now all of a sudden beating Liverpool, and I had to make sure that I got to him very, very quickly.
He's going to make quite sure that they go about this in exactly the right way. You could almost see him saying that to the other players. Calm down, show a bit of dignity, make them remember you for the best possible reasons. Look at that, that's good management. Vinnie Jones will be a hard man to control at this moment, I'll tell you.
I said, Vincent, control your emotions as much as you can. Poetic words, really, because unfortunately, he got hold of his winner's medal, got hold of his genitals in front of the television cameras, and it was shown throughout Great Britain and the world. I got mail in from all over the country saying it was the most disgraceful behaviour ever witnessed in a FA Cup final.
Jones was oblivious to any disgrace. He had a winner's medal and the scars to prove it.
You got one or two scars up here?
Girlfriend. Yeah, you should see the other boys. See the boys in the red.
Vinnie was on top of the world, but following a series of incidents that even he would now rather the world forgot, he would be gone in less than a year. In a post-party game 2 days after the cup final, Jones decided to go in goal.
All of a sudden, the crowd behind the goal were shouting, and Vincent, Vincent, show us your Vincent shows you backside, so he did. He pulled his shorts down and the crowd were in raptures, weren't they? And at half-time, the referee blew his whistle, and to a man, they got together as a unit, and they ran to the halfway line. And I knew what they were going to do. I just knew what they were going to do. I couldn't get out of the stand quick enough. As I got down onto the touchline, they did it.
That cost the club a £10,000 fine. Then, in a pre-season friendly, Jones was sent off for elbowing an amateur opponent in the face. To try to control his unruly charge, Gould uniquely slapped a ban on his own player for the start of the season. Weeks later, in a match at White Hart Lane, Jones went thundering into a tackle on England international Gary Stevens, causing him a serious knee injury. The tackle was widely condemned by the media.
Stevens was certainly never the same player again. It almost certainly sort of shortened his career. And I remember thinking, at very best, it was a reckless tackle. I thought it was an appalling tackle.
Faced with a player clearly out of control, Gould tried to find the reason for his aggression. The manager suspected that Jones carried the anger from his disrupted childhood.
He loved his father, you know, that was so evident as time went on, and I began to know him more deeply as a person, not just a footballer. I think all homes with broken marriages leave an effect on individuals, and we knew we had a potential footballer that had problems at the back of his mind.
He's always been seeking a family. He's always been seeking love. He's always been seeking relationship, stability. These are the traits of somebody who's insecure. And I think because of our background, we are fighters.
Gould's patience finally ran out after Jones was sent off for headbutting Everton's Kevin Ratcliffe. It was time to cast the rotten apple out.
In the end, I said, I think it's time that Vincent left Wimbledon Football Club.
Thrown out of his football family, Jones found himself dispatched to Leeds United, then struggling in the second division. He was desperate to show his game wasn't all unbridled aggression, despite the overwhelming need of the Yorkshire Giants to fight their way back to the big time.
The second division was a rat race. We were desperate to get out. You needed somebody to generate some sound, some noise, some excitement. And Vinnie Jones was one of those sort of players. He could do that.
It was my wife who'd read the paper. She was inside and I'd been outside playing with the kids in the pool. And they told me that Vinnie Jones had signed for Leeds United. And my first reaction was, this could be trouble. I thought it was useless. I thought it was just a big thug with a long throw who intimidated people.
At first, it seemed the Leeds captain's worst fears were confirmed.
He thought when he came to the club that he was there to batter the living daylights out of any person he played against, and he thought that would be good enough for the side. And in a pre-season friendly, I remember him after 20 minutes, he smacked somebody in the face from a Belgian side, and he thought it was great, and he thought he was showing to the crowd and showing to us how hard he was. We had a word with him after the game, and I said, if you think that's got to help us, you've got another thing coming, because somebody will get to see that. We'll end up with 10 men, and at my age I don't want to be doing any extra running for you, so you can become a celebrity.
Leeds were managed by Howard Wilkinson, a tough disciplinarian, like Vinnie's former boss, Bobby Gould.
I just said, look, that's not how we do things here, that's not why you've been brought here. You don't need to do that. You've got other strengths, and let's build on them. You know, you don't always have to fight the world.
Jones showed that he could control his aggression and follow orders. It was to be his most prolific year in football as the team raced towards promotion and he became a local hero.
So I hope you can listen. look well. It's not that bad, it's got to be said, but you may think I'm in the head. The king of rap, the real soul man, and I'm the one that they've tried to ban. Don't worry that you may get in trouble. We're all doing the Vinnie shuffle.
That's without doubt his best period. And he played some lovely football, scored some good goals, and he was a joy to work with.
He was a very, very popular character. He was the only footballer of that generation that I remember when he came on the field, he went straight to where the disabled section was, and he shook hands, or patted their head, or said an encouraging word to the kids sitting there in wheelchairs. They idolized him. And the fans in the Kop, they thought, you know, he was next to God.
He proved he could behave, because I think in his 18 months there he got 2 bookings. More importantly, he proved he could play within that team as part of that team, that he wasn't in there as some sort of hatchet man. He was in there as a footballer.
And yet, as they were securing promotion, the manager was preparing to dump him.
Howard Wilkinson recognised that the football that we expect from a first division team is totally different from getting up the second division. Howard felt that Vinnie did a very good job for Leeds, but it was time to move on, both for the club and for Vinnie Jones.
The bad boy had shown he could behave, but it had been thrown back in his face. The disappointment was crushing. The finesse and behaviour of his Leeds days soon disappeared. The next phase of his football career was notable only for gaining the fastest bookings ever recorded. At Sheffield United, the yellow card came after just 5 seconds against Manchester City. And then, playing for Chelsea the following year, he was booked even faster, within 3 seconds. In 1992, he returned to Wimbledon after Chelsea had been the 3rd club in 3 years to turn their back on him.
The board at Chelsea made it impossible for me to stay, really, at the end. You know, they paid up my contract, so therefore I had no option.